we have a lot of stuff to get into. Some amazing moments from the Eubank Jr. Benn press conference for their rematch. Let's get right into the lead hook. A lot of news is coming out of the Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn press conference. Here's something making waves out of the presser. Listen to this.
After the fight, due to severe dehydration, I'm put in an ambulance and I have to go to hospital. I was actually so dehydrated that one of the toenails on my big toe fell off. It actually fell off. It's grown back about halfway now. But anyway, I'm in this ambulance.
Jesus, not a toenail.
I'm in the ambulance. And
you still got it?
These scumbags blocked that ambulance from leaving the stadium for 20 minutes.
By the way, this is an intrigue. I'll keep going because this is all being noted because it's absolute waffle.
20 minutes.
Waffle.
Popped in.
Waffle.
I'm laying there in a gurney, oxygen mask on, and the car cannot move. They will not open the gates to let us leave.
I mean, that's a lot there. That's a big, heavy accusation to make of promoter, right? That he blocked your exit to the hospital, especially a combat sport like boxing. That's dangerous. But also Eddie Hearn kind of making fun of, your toenail falling off. The point is not that it's a toenail. The point is that the claim that is being made is that I was so dehydrated, something weird happened to my body. It doesn't matter that it was a toenail. That's not supposed to happen. And this is all after the egg slap incident where Eubank slapped Conor Benn with an egg. It's like WWE style stuff, right? They had a great fight the first time, but let's start with the dehydration.
Yeah.
And
that's big, man.
Like I really hate the fact that weigh-ins are not still day of fight. You know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Originally, well, there's an egg slap from the
that
first
was an egg right there.
What?
Oh my God.
Sunny side up
that
slap.
was funny.
Those two guys hate each other.
They hate each other. But like
tell.
originally, the idea of doing weigh-ins a day before the fight was because fighters were dehydrating day of, and it was dangerous. But all that happened when you moved the weigh-in a day before, and now in the morning of the day before, all that's happened is fighters are dehydrating even more.
Yeah.
Right? That's what's happening. Guys are not fighting in the right weight division. Guys are fighting at middleweight. You know they're walking around over 180 pounds. They're trying to melt off 15, 20 pounds, Mike.
Well, also, Eubank for this fight, he fights at 68, and this fight was at 160, and he had a rehydration clause where he couldn't gain more than 10 pounds the next day. But that's the sacrifice he made, right, for a fight against against Conor Benn, who's a 147-pounder, fought a couple of times at 54, but a much smaller guy.
And by the way, Eubank was a favorite, and Benn fought an inspired fight. What did you think of?
It was a fun fight. It was a very fun fight. One thing that Benn did was the first 4 rounds, he came balls to the wall. He just wanted to win that fight. If he had the energy to continue that fight and that pace, I think you would be able to stop him. But being Eubank is just such a good boxer, and he just adapted so quick in that fight. But it was a great fight. It was a great, fun fight, especially the last 3 rounds. They were just
it was the
balls
best
to the wall.
version of what that possibly could have been.
Absolutely.
The drama and Chris Eubank Sr. before the fight, and then the inspired way in which they fought, the ebbs and flows. The favorite was in danger at the very end.
Yeah.
Like it could not have been a better version of what it might have been. Have you, real quick, before I get to you, Shady, have you ever been through anything like what Eubank is describing, being allowed to exit to get to the hospital?
After I fought Adam Karnaki in New York, in Brooklyn, I had my hands were broken. I wanted to go to the press conference, but they said, no, you got to go to the hospital. Getting out the hospital, it took about 45 minutes just to get out in Brooklyn. But then again, it's traffic, man. You got to. I don't think they were trying to sabotage him, but then again, you got to know the traffic.
In other words, he could be telling the truth from his point of view. Eddie Hearn is saying disputing it. But Eubank could be telling the truth from his point of view. We were not allowed to leave, but it may not be anything that the promoter's doing, because in your case, you didn't want to go to the hospital. You wanted to go to the press conference. They made you go to the hospital, and you had to wait to go to the hospital.
Exactly. Not only that, the traffic was bad. Then once you get to the hospital, it's New York. That
Yeah,
hospital.
yeah,
But are you guys surprised at this? I'm not surprised. If you really watch the build up to this fight, you put the dimension of the fathers at it, right? Going at it. Okay, then you go to the fighters. You could tell with some bad tension between them dudes, right? You look at the egg slap, Eubank slap, Conor Benn, and then the pissed off version of them two fighting with each other, and then you get to the fight. At the first 4 rounds, Conor Benn was going for blood. He wasn't setting no punches up. It was all haymakers. There was a lot of power shots, and then as the fight went on, you see Eubanks with the experience show. But I love that fight. And everything with the Eddie Hearns, with the egg slap, I'm all for it. That's what boxing needs. We need all that build-up.
You're pluralizing everyone's name. Hearns and Banks. You're pluralizing everyone's name. There's only one of them. All right, Cop. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Look, I mean, I agree with what you said. That was the best version of that fight. I think it's going to be hard for the rematch to top the first meeting, and if it does, that would be one hell of a fight. Chris Eubank's a lot bigger than Conor Benn.
Yeah.
And I thought he did an amazing job with his jab. It seemed like he figured out Conor Benn over the second half of the fight. Now, can Conor Benn make the adjustments to somehow even the score?
Let me tell you why I do think it's going to be another great fight. I think you throw around the word great, and it was contested at a certain level. This is not Crawford and Canelo, right?
Right.
But it was a world-class level.
Yeah.
It may not have been the highest world, but it was a world-class level. Sometimes when you get, but it was a great fight. It was a great fight. It's a memorable fight. The crowd was into it. Sometimes you get a blood rivalry, like a family feud, right? I remember when Layla Ali, who had dedicated herself to boxing for years at that point, fought Jackie Frazier. They're looking for opponents because there aren't a lot of female fighters at the time that certainly the public knows. Jackie Frazier wasn't a professional boxer, but she got in shape for Layla Ali, and they fought a tough 10 rounds. Jackie Frazier wasn't supposed to last 10 rounds. She fought a tough 10 rounds because, as Larry Merchant once said about Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, one of my favorite boxing quotes, Larry has a lot of those, they were fighting for the heavyweight championship of each other. Wow. Chris Eubank and Nigel Benn, right? Like that British era of middleweights was so intense that when you get a family rivalry like that, you have Eubank and Benn. They're fighting. Forget about any championship. They're fighting for the championship of each other. Mike, I expect another great fight.
Yeah, and Max, now that you mention it, though, there is more at stake this time because this was a 2-fight deal, so the rematch was always guaranteed. Obviously, you'd have to make a new deal for a third fight. As you know, in boxing, it's always a lot tougher to make materialize if there is a demand for it. And if Chris Eubank wins, I think there's a good chance we see Canelo Alvarez against Eubank next year. Make a lot of sense for Canelo. Coming off the loss to Crawford, Canelo's long wanted to fight in England, or maybe you do it in Riyadh. But Eubank obviously would be into it, and you do it at 68.
And it's a storyline. That's what sports loves. Sports loves storylines, right? You talk about the fathers going at it. Right. And then I look at even, they hated each other, right? And sometimes you try to sell a fight, and then guys after the fight, they apologize. No, not these two. Everything that they said before the fight, they said after the fight. And that's why it's going to be another banger when they fight.
Not only, what I really want to watch, I really would want to watch is if Eubanks wins, the Canelo fight with him. That's another thing that will just bring Canelo back into the picture. You know, we got to get him back into the picture. He needs a fight like that, someone like that. You know, fight him in the UK. It'll be a big money-making fight. Why not make it happen?
By the way, I'll give you another one. Terrence Crawford might be, if he continues to fight, might be looking for an opponent. You need a big name to make a big event.
Big market.
While, for example, maybe the middleweights sort things out so that Crawford could maybe do a two-fight deal, right? You beat Eubank, because Crawford would be heavily favored, right? In a big event like that, and then your next fight is for whoever kind of puts those belts together at middleweight. You become the Ring Magazine middleweight champion, first real division champion.
Cooking that thing up over there, Max.
I mean, it could happen.
That could happen. Yeah, that could happen.
The point is, and not to look past Ben, Eubank is the bigger, better fighter.
Yeah.
But we're assuming that Eubank wins. He's the favorite once again for a reason.
I'm betting on Conor.